Hey, so a few days ago I got accepted an invite to a Bible study. One of my friends invited me, and he had a little group going on. And I had never been to one before. I'm a non-believer. I don't believe in any religions or gods or God that exist. I love discussing this sort of stuff, and I just took him up on his offer. So I went last Tuesday, and it was pretty good. Some stuff, like the conversations, were pretty good. It lasted about 2.5 hours, and some stuff was questionable. I didn't jive with, but most of the discussion was pretty good. It was just 5 of us total, mostly guys. It was all guys, and it was around my age, a little younger. Like I'm early 30s, and they were mostly older 20s, close to 30. But I don't know how other Bible studies are, but this one, we just took one book and then just read one chapter of it, and that's all we did. Just one chapter, and then talked about it, or talked about anything tangentially related to it. So the one that they chose was Ecclesiastes, and if you ever read it, it's pretty dark in a lot of areas. And the first time he said he was going to bring that up, I was surprised it's actually in the Bible, because it's pretty depressing in a lot of ways. But we read chapter 2, which the general gist of it is the author. Some say it's Solomon, but it's hard to actually nail down who the actual author is. It could be anonymous, we don't know. Basically, chapter 2 says all your hard work and toiling in this life is fairly meaningless. Even if you enjoy the fruits of your labor, it all ends the same way. And that's most of the chapter, but the last 3 or 4 verses it starts going into, but if you have God, then there's meaning in all the toiling in your life. So that's what we read. What we did in this Bible study is we went around and each person read like 5 verses, and then the next person would go. And there was 5 of us total, so we got through it pretty easily. And then we started discussing it, bits and pieces of it. So essentially, for like half the discussion, we talked about that chapter in Ecclesiastes, where it has 2 possibilities in life. That's what it says. It's either you're depressed because life is meaningless at the end, or you accept God, and then your life has meaning somehow. And I even asked, like, how does it have meaning? And I didn't really get a good response to that. But the third one, they never brought this up, and I brought it up. I asked the question, but why isn't acceptance a good option? Why is accepting that life has no meaning in general not okay? Why is accepting that not an option? Subjectively, you can put your own meaning on it. Like I put meaning, like every individual puts meaning on their life, whether they want to or not. I put my meaning on my life. I want to experience as much as I can while I'm here. I want to interact with people as much as I can. I want to experience things while I'm here on average 80 years on this earth, and that's acceptable to me. Now, I did bring up the analogy of, well, yeah, everything has its end, just like a car 10 years from now that you own will eventually break down. But that doesn't mean you devalue it right now when you have it, when it takes you from point A to point B, to, when it's useful. When you have it, you enjoy it, and that's the meaning. Like, it's not meaningless just because at some point in the future it's going to end, just like your life. So what's wrong with that? Like, why can't you just accept that's a inevitability and enjoy it now? And one guy in the group, he said he couldn't justify acceptance, and it's because he already subscribed to the Christian afterlife. In other words, he believed in hell. That's what he was taught. That's what he was brought up in. That was ingrained in him, indoctrinated into him since he was small. He said he couldn't get over the fact that he was taught hell, and therefore he believed that hell existed. So he was always the existential dread of potentially going to imaginary place one day. So, but I brought up the question I always ask is like, but you don't worry about the Muslim hell. You don't worry about being reincarnated into a cockroach. You don't worry about not entering Valhalla. You don't worry about any other afterlife other than Christianity. So why would you worry about that one? And why would you worry about one afterlife and not the other, or any other ones? And then we brought up Pascal's wager, which, if you don't know what Pascal's wager is, it's the idea if Christianity is wrong, then all you do is just you had a good existence and you lose nothing. But if Christianity is right, it's better to believe Christianity in case it is right. But there's a couple problems with it, and I brought it up that one, it assumes that believing in a religion is a choice. It's either you're convinced or you're not. It has nothing to do with choosing to believe. It's like trying to choose not to believe that gravity exists. Therefore, you can jump over a cliff. It's like, no, we've been convinced by evidence that gravity exists. So belief is not a choice. And then the second part is you're not taking into account every other afterlife. You're not taking into account every other religion, every other, like Ra, Vishnu, Buddha, all the other gods, Thor, Odin. You don't, for one reason or another, you don't take those seriously. But for some reason, the one that you were born in, the one that's the majority in around here, you take more seriously than others. There's a bunch of problems with that. And he even said, like the guy said, that he knew that he was dealing with that faulty logic, but it still ate at him, and he couldn't get over that, which I feel sad about that. And then for some reason the topic turned to, we talked about love and compassion, and then it eventually went to Jesus Christ, which it's a Christian Bible study, so of course it's going to eventually end up there, even though we were talking about Ecclesiastes, which is in the Old Testament, and the author knew nothing about this Jesus Christ figure. We started talking about that, and I started bringing up the old idea of, like, I kind of went off on a tangent saying, I don't understand this whole love by death thing. It seems pretty grotesque to me, some blood magic. And then the main guy in the group said that, in the Bible it says there's no better, there's no better love than a blood sacrifice or something like that. And I was like, but that sounds gross. It's like there's no other way that this all-knowing, all-loving God could do than sacrifice. Oh, and then I asked him, but Jesus didn't die though. He got resurrected. He had a bummer of a weekend. That's not dying. A dying means you don't come back alive. He was like, I was like, how does God die if he's immortal? He's like, Jesus, the human form died. I'm like, but then that's not God then, because God is supposed to be immortal. And then he tried to do the mental gymnastics of trying to explain it. And I was like, you know what, we're getting off topic. So as we were talking about Ecclesiastes chapter 2. And so I didn't push it any further. I was like, okay. So one guy did bring up that he was saved because he wasn't obedient, which I thought was kind of weird. Yeah, one of the other guys in the group, he said he was saved because he felt like he wasn't being obedient, which that sounds like some S&M type stuff. He wasn't being obedient to his master, which I guess is God. So he turned his life over to Christ or religion or whatever. He talked a little bit, but not too much. It was me, the head guy, and another guy that talked. We're all three of us were friends. Then my friend and then the head guy, who's also my friend, started giving their personal testimonies of why they believe in they're Christians and why they believe in that religion. I'm not going to get into the personal nitty-gritty because that's their business, but a lot of it was vulnerability. A lot of it was crying, existential crisis, worry about life, afterlife, mental illness, and it was pretty long about their stories and their struggles. And the entire time I was thinking, okay, therapy could probably help that. Medicine might help that. Therapy. All this stuff is happening, the stuff that changed them to be more religious or have a relationship with Christ, as they say. It only happened because they were in a vulnerable state. So when you're in a vulnerable state, you're already predisposition to look for something to quench that vulnerability, that unsureness. And we're in a Christian society, like a predominantly Christian society. The majority of people here are Christian. What do you have available? You have a Bible. He had, like, one of the guys had a Bible. He started reading it, and then some vague things probably he read that he could attribute to his specific issues that he's going through. He tied to that. So he thought it was a sign, and I just don't understand. And personal experience is the worst type of thing to convince somebody, another person, that what you experience is actually true. I can say that a person experienced something personal, but I don't, whether or not they actually did is another question entirely. He went to the Bible, and because he was raised Christian, it already had an advantage. Because he was already raised Christian, he went to the Bible. He didn't go to the Quran, he didn't go to the Bhagavad Gita, he didn't go to any other holy book except for the Bible, because that's what he was raised with, and that's what his family and his friends he associated with. So Christianity already had an advantage. So that was also another point against it that I didn't understand. And I didn't try and bring that up because he was talking about some real personal stuff. And that's the sort of area where I kind of don't push back on the logical flaws I see. Because if it stops people from either hurting themselves or others, then or like goes into severe depression, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna show you where the logical fallacies are of the stuff that you experienced. Yeah, he said that stuff spoke to him, which I see as him fitting vague verses into specific situations. That happens a lot. He did say that he did say that Jesus doesn't make promises he doesn't keep, which I thought was a lie. Like, even in the Bible, like, it says, Jesus said that nobody will have the taste of death until the kingdom of God comes, and it didn't happen. So he's a failed prophet, and he lied, and he made promises, and you can call that a promise, I guess, but he made a promise and it didn't happen. So I didn't push at it because we weren't talking about Jesus in the first place. We're talking about Ecclesiastes. At the end of the session, we went around the room, and I didn't know what was going on at first because I didn't hear what he said. But the main guy asked everyone, what do you want us to pray about? So one guy was talking. He went around the room, and one of them said, I'm just worried about this work I'm doing at work, and I got some stuff going on. Another guy said his dog was sick and whatever. And another guy was like, I want to do a Bible study with my roommate and make sure that's really good. So if you could pray for that. And then it gets to me, and I was like, what are we doing? I don't understand. They're like, do you want anything you want prayed for? And I was like, oh no, my life's going great. I'm good. I don't need anything. And then they passed me, and then they started praying, or the main guy started praying about each individual one's stuff they got going on. I'm just sitting there looking out in space. So yeah, overall that was pretty good. It was fun because I like the Bible, like talking about Bible stuff, because I've read almost all of it. Most of it was pretty good conversation. Some of it was kind of annoying. I would have a lot of questions about and issues with, and would really do a deep dive if it wasn't a Bible study with other people. But it was good. I would do another one. We'll probably do one next week, and then I'll see how that goes. But that was my first experience at a Bible study as an atheist, non-religious, non-believer. But it was good. I would do it again. All right, and that was it. See y'all later. Bye.